This movie's bullshit. Where's all the math? It's D&D. There's math in D&D.
I leave that up to my DM.
You don't do your own. You don't do your own math in your dice rolls.
Well, for damage, attack rolls, sure. I add the d6s, but anything more technical than that, I defer to more experienced players.
Ah, your DM spoils you.
Yes, I love him.
Anyway, hi. We're here to talk about the Dungeons and Dragons movie. This one unfortunately does not have Jeremy Irons.
But it does have Chris Pine.
It does have Chris Pine. It's not a fair trade, but I'll take it.
I think Chris Pine is cute and charming. What do you
I
think?
like Chris Pine as much as in all the other Chris's. But that being said, it's Jeremy fucking Irons, and his disdain for that movie he was in still kind of is the bright spot of that entire film. Just how much he just clearly doesn't want to be there. That's what I want from these movies, just pure disdain for the acting craft. Anyway, I digress. So yeah, this is the new Dungeons and Dragons movie. It stars Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez, a bunch of people whose name I forget, and that girl from It Chapter 1 and 2. I'm pretty sure that's her.
I didn't really look up the cast list for this one.
But anyway, so obviously it's based very loosely on the tabletop game of the same name, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yes. This is the first movie to be released this year that, upon seeing the trailer for it, I was excited to see it, and I saw it last Friday on its opening day, and I made a point to do so. I was looking forward to it, and it did not disappoint.
Yeah,
it is a fun time at the theater. I had a fantastic time, and I may see this again on my next day off.
Yeah, I mean, I probably will too at some point in the fairly near future. And I'm trying to feel like who. I think this is directed by. Yep, it is. It's directed by the same guy who
Directed Game Night.
Directed Game Night, which is a very underrated comedy.
That's what I've heard. I need to look that one up.
Yeah, that was the one I think we watched with no expectation, came back really surprised. So when he was announced for this project, I think we were all pretty excited about it. And yeah, it pays off. It doesn't take itself too seriously. I don't think it needs to.
No.
And I think it's one of those things. Dungeons and Dragons inherently is just a game where you just kind of make shit up that's based off other properties you've seen, and just try to make it your own. So I always find it weird when I see people take the shit way too seriously, criticize it for like, oh, it's just like borrowing shit from this, or like, oh, it's too many jokes, that's too much witticisms. Like, yeah, but that's D&D.
Yeah.
Look, everyone thinks they're going in like the Fellowship of the Ring, but everyone comes out looking like Monty Python. That's how it goes. We all know this. It's inherent within the genre. So like the plot is not inherently all deep. It doesn't need to be. It's exactly what it needs to be, which is here's the MacGuffin. Go find it. It'll get point A to point B.
There will be side quests for you to level up and gain experience points along the way.
Yep. There's dragons, there's monsters, there's cool like references and spells for those who know the games, but you don't need to actually play the games to enjoy it. It's very easily accessible. I liked how they did the half lanes. I thought they were fun.
For those who do play the games, or speaking for myself anyhow, it was rad to see the creatures on the big screen. Like, this isn't a spoiler because it's in the trailer. When I first saw the owlbear, I was all, oh, that's so cool.
Yep. No, the owlbear looked like all the designs look great. They really did a good job of translating the characters, like the Gelatinous Cube, the Displacer Beast, the Mimic, the owlbear. All those things look really cool.
I think there was a beholder too.
Was there a beholder? I don't remember a beholder.
Maybe I'm confusing it with another creature.
Maybe. If there was, I missed it. But anyway, like I don't want to give too much away from this because this is I feel like the more I spoil this movie, the more fun I kind of take away. This is one of those I feel like it's better to discover for yourself.
It is definitely worth seeing in the theater, whether you are a regular player of the game or not. I've a lot of the regular clientele at the store that I work at. Granted, they are older. When I told them conversationally, "Oh, I'm going to see this on my next day off," they asked me, "Oh, is that animated? Is that live action?" So
I mean, the answer is kind of yes.
I understand if it's not for everybody, but if you like a well paced and quippy fantasy adventure romp with a nice heart and a decent message and an outstanding cast, then please go see this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good to see Michelle Rodriguez and having fun in something.
And Hugh Grant too.
And I was gonna bring up Hugh Grant, yeah. That plays her natural strength. Hugh Grant is having a great time just chewing all the scenery. And it's kind of fascinating watching modern day Hugh Grant because he just clearly just doesn't give a fuck anymore.
He's done doing rom-coms and now he's just having fun, like you said, chewing scenery.
Well, it's like even if you watch him in interviews, he kind of has this over it, kind of like Harrison Ford kind of vibe going for him. And he just like unless there's like an interesting question, he kind of looks like I don't know why I'm here. It's just kind of a waste of my time. And everyone's like, he's being so rude. I was like, yeah, but look at the bullshit he has to answer. I don't really blame him. So like I love modern day Hugh Grant. Modern day Hugh Grant's fucking great. And one thing I did like about this movie too is I don't know how much of the dialogue was improvised and how much wasn't. My understanding that it's like, despite it seems improv, but the script's actually pretty tight. And the director doesn't like you fucking around with it, apparently. That's what I've heard. So which is fine with me because one thing I'm kind of tired of movies like this is fucking line-orama. Where they just,
like punchline, no room to laugh or breathe, punchline.
Like that, it's more like when they think, oh, we have funny people, it's gonna let them improvise and just say lines, but they don't know when to say cut and end the scene. So you have cases where, like Anchorman, for example, where they just keep saying shit that's supposed to be funny, and it's like, okay, you could have cut like 50% of this. It does not need to be this fucking long. But despite the fact it's over a 2-hour movie, it moves at a pretty brisk pace. It doesn't feel nearly as long as it is.
And it doesn't meander in one part of the story longer than it needs to.
Yeah. And it's like there's ain't a surprise necessarily. You can kind of see the plot beats coming from a mile away. But again, it's not that kind of movie. So it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, I'm like, I don't feel like there's a whole terrible lot to say other than the fact that it knows what genre it's in, is having fun within that genre. It's not trying to be more than it is. One thing I did want to mention was I do really appreciate, despite what is definitely a very CGI heavy movie, how much practical effects there still is in the film. Yes. I did appreciate that. Like a lot of the creatures and like the characters that are not human, like non-humanoid characters in there are practical effects. Like there's a Birdman that comes up a couple times that is like an actual costume and a lot of actual like prosthetics that they show the behind the scenes. Like all that was pretty real.
I appreciated that too, and the visuals, and that this movie is funny.
Yeah,
it's not trying to be depressing or dour or deep. There is some philosophy and, like I said, a good message kind of sprinkled throughout it, but it is just fun and humorous and effective with being just what it is.
Yeah, it's one of those fantasy films that does it, that I feel like understands that fantasy at the end of the day is supposed to be escapism. Yes. And especially Dungeons and Dragons is definitely supposed to be escapism. Now, granted, and this is actually a thesis I'm working on in a project I just started recently, reality often follows fantasy, like follows you into fantasy, which is why things get a bit darker and edgier. But sometimes you just need something lighter and fluffier and something that is just there to be like, ooh, look at the cool monsters. Like, ooh, look at the funny characters. And it's not done cheaply. It's not done lazily. Like there's a few cheap laughs here and there, but of course, like that's it all comes together because it's still about fun characters that are easy to invest in. They're easy to like, and a story that's easy to root for. So pretty much all that comes together is a surprisingly good package for something that probably should not work.
But it does work, and I mean, if we're not going into spoilers, I'll just repeat myself by saying go see it if you haven't already, and if any of this sounds like your bag of dice.
Yeah, I see what you did there. So yeah, like I don't really feel like it's necessary to go into spoilers because I feel like everything we can have to say of value, it can be done without giving anything away. But that being said, yeah, I think it's very clear we both really enjoyed this. I'm probably gonna go see it again.
Same.
So yeah. Anything on a particular piece of topic you want to talk about?
As someone who has and is playing the spellcaster in my own campaign, I enjoyed seeing what the spells would look like in the real world.
Yeah, there's a ton of Easter eggs like that. Some of the ones I caught, I'm sure there's plenty that I missed. So like I'm sure like there's something here for everybody. I feel like if you're just even a casual fan of the fantasy genre. So
yeah, like I love casting fireball in battles. So it was fun to see. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, I caught like one like chain lightning, mage's hand. There's a few in there. So yeah, all that stuff's really cool to see. And you and I have both been D&D players for a long time. So like even though I don't know the spell list by heart, it was still kind of cool to see like, oh, I recognize that.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, Dungeons and Dragons, good fucking movie. Peace. Bye. Shorter than most D&D sessions.
Yes, my average one is scheduled for 4 hours, basically twice a month, but we usually spend about a half hour or 40 minutes of that talking and eating dinner. Actual gameplay often is less.
So 3 hours of that will be in combat.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you all for watching. We're still going to review John Wick 4. Me and Muha saw last week, so he's got to sit down and talk about it. And I think Mario Brothers movie comes out pretty soon, so we got to watch that.
I think it came out on Friday, or it's coming out this Friday. One of those.
Probably this Friday, because if it came out already, I definitely would have known. So either way, we'll watch what we can. Until then, thank you guys for watching. See you later.